This episode of Running Down the Clock is brought to us by Busy Bee Vegan Skincare. Busy Bee is an all-natural skincare line dedicated to healthy, vegan, plant-based skincare and overall wellness. They offer a selection of handcrafted body scrubs, butters, and washes that not only make your skin glow, but smell amazing. Their unique all-natural scents include gingerbread, ruby grapefruit, caramel cake, and morning latte. So why not treat your skin to something fresh and all natural? Head over to shopbusybeevegan.com today. And as a special bonus, Busy Bee is offering listeners of this podcast a 15% discount on your first order with the code Ordinary Podcasts. Welcome to Running Down the Clock, where we break down all of this week's big news, events, and controversies from the National Football League. Over the next 45 minutes, we will give you basic fan perspective and opinion on the most important stories and moments happening now. So, let's start the clock. Hello, football fans. Welcome back to Running Down the Clock. I have Poya Reisi here with me. We're going to talk NFC South tonight. Poya, how are you?
Great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, thank you. NFC South, for those of you who don't know, are Bucks, Panthers, Falcons, Saints. And when we talk NFC South now, over the last 2 years, we have to talk about the one, the only, the GOAT, Tom Brady, probably the best player in the division. Puya?
So, there was the whole thing about the retirement, not retired. I've got, a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory about that if you're ready for it.
Of course I'm ready for it. Let me start this 45-minute timer we have for this show, and let's get into it.
So we all know that Tom Brady retired.
Yes.
There was that brief moment, I don't know, it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was, 30 days he was retired for.
Yep.
The whole story behind that was one of the guys in his camp leaked it out, and he was just betrayed by that, right?
That is the story coming out, is that somebody, either his friend or his family or someone in his inner circle, leaked it out to someone else in the press, either via a golf game or a dinner or something casual like that. Yes.
And, that's a big blow to him. That was his legacy. That was his right to share that information, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you have a retirement with someone like him, with his status, you want to make it something that you do properly, something that is a lasting impression on how you left the game.
And they took that away from him. And I think the competitive guy he is, he's only coming back to take that away from whoever leaked it, that you can't have that. I'm Tom Brady. I'm the one that chooses how to do that.
So you think he's coming back specifically to spite that guy and not win another Super Bowl?
Well, I think winning the Super Bowl is always in contention when he's playing. If he's going to play, he's playing to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying it's not about the Super Bowl, but I think one of the decisions of him coming back was that. Now, this is based off nothing except my own feelings about spiting people.
Of course. And let's say this again, because this is our first or second episode. Well, it depends on which one we do first, AFC South or NFC South. But let's just say that Puya and I do not know anything about anything except we watch football and we are fans of it. So don't expect any expert analysis from us going forward. But Puya, so you think that just based on human emotion and our interpretation of sports and how we've played sports and our lives, that this could be something that Tom Brady would think because someone took this moment away from him. So he's going to come back for another year, which maybe he might have been 50-50 to do with anyways.
Yeah. I just don't, he doesn't want to lose.
He never wants to lose. Guy. That's what makes him the best player in the NFL. And maybe one of the top 5 athletes of all time is his competitive drive.
I've always thought this about Tom Brady. He's not the most skilled quarterback. He doesn't actually have any key features in the game for like skill sets for a quarterback that puts him above anybody else. He is good at one specific skill set, which is the objective of football, is winning the game. That's what Tom Brady is best at, finding a way to win the game.
Yeah.
He views it the full 4 quarters. He doesn't panic of one play and throw the entire game away. He understands the game so well that his skill set is knowing how to win the game.
I agree with you. He probably has the highest football IQ of anyone that's played the NFL game that we can think of, because he is the best. I would say Aaron Rodgers probably has the best arm in the NFL right now, but Tom Brady has that eyesight, that talent to win games, the drive to win games, the ability that is not a God-given talent. It's more so just his vision and his ability to see open guys, see the play, his study time. All of that alludes to why he is able to make these incredible wins and continue this success even with different teams.
Yeah, someone once broke this down for me. The way the Patriots did the games, like you look at their records in the Super Bowl, how they've never led into halftime or something with
really?
Tom Brady playing. There's some wild stat that they're always losing or trailing or zeros going into halftime or into the second quarter. They come out later in the lead. It's because he understands the clock management so well that he's not just throwing balls away. He'll just get rid of it. If that pass isn't there right when it needs to be, doesn't try and extend the play. He understands we'll just maintain possession now, or we'll kick it away and give them bad field position, and we will live to play the rest of the game. Doesn't make a bad turnover. Like, that's the whole idea behind it.
And he also doesn't throw. A lot of times you see when someone needs to make a play, they look for a big arm and they go deep. He does not do that. He finds an open guy on a cut or a cross, or someone that's going to get a 7 to 10, maybe 15-yard throw and then turn it for another 15, 20 yards instead of a 40-yard throw where a guy gets kind of tackled or goes out of bounds right away.
Yeah, just doing enough to stay in the game.
And I'll reiterate again, probably the best football player that's ever played the game. And so obviously this is why we're talking about him first. We're leading up with him. Now, looking at his wide receiver core, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they just signed Julio Jones, who we talked about Tennessee last year being garbage. Julio Jones was garbage with Tennessee last year. And do you think that Julio, with the knowledge and the book study and the film study and the other wide receivers in that dressing room, that training room, do you think he could have a resurgence in Tampa Bay?
I think that Tom Brady knows, he's so familiar with the players in the NFL. I think he knows how to get the best out of whatever he's got left in the tank to offer.
I would agree with that statement.
How much Julio Jones has left in the tank, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But, his name never came up in Tennessee last year.
No, never. He was either hurt or he just didn't have a great game. And it was always, everyone was waiting for Julio Jones to break out, waiting for Julio Jones to get that big catch that gets him into the game, that gets them moving forward, that gets some momentum for the rest of the season. It never really happened. So, but I think you're right with Tom Brady, is that he will find a way to put that player in the position that he is great at in terms of his skill set to make them back to the player that they're probably not anymore. Julio Jones is probably past his prime, but he has that body still, and he has the skill set that's there. It just needs to be reintroduced in a different way to succeed.
From all the mic'd up footage I've seen, the guys, when they listen to Tom, good things happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he knows every little detail. He knows where everyone should be. He knows what everyone's going to do. Just listen to Tom. Follow along with him. Follow his lead, and you'll have some success.
Yep, I agree with that. And so Julio Jones is not the only wide receiver they picked up this offseason. Russell Gage from Atlanta, who was either their leading, he was their wide receiver one once Calvin Ridley went down he needed some mental health break. But Russell, their wide receiving core now is probably the best in the league, right?
I mean, I like Scott Miller too. He's got some legs. If he's the guy I'm thinking of, he's got some legs on him, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's him and even Tyler Johnson. Somehow those guys play. Like, they don't just go out on the field and give it 5 to 10 plays. They catch balls for Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He finds them open. So, like, Mike, it's looking at the depth chart on Tampa Bay, it's unbelievable the wide receivers they have. Mike Evans, all-star, all-pro. Chris Godwin, all-pro. Russell Gage, number one wide receiver in Atlanta, has a lot to prove when he comes to Tampa Bay and has the skill set to do it. Julio Jones, who we know is a Hall of Famer. And then you have your Tyler Johnson and your Scotty Miller. Like, they could put anybody in there and this is an offensive team. And let's talk about the tight ends as well. Cameron Brate is coming back, and Kyle Rudolph, who was amazing for the Vikings for 7 years. And he's going to cover. So Gronk is retired. Gronk says he's not going to come back. His girlfriend thinks he'll come back. says he's not going to come back. But Kyle Rudolph, they just signed him last week. He's a player.
Yeah, he's not a nobody.
He's not a nobody. He's a name that I know the name Kyle Rudolph, and he's a better player than some of the guys we couldn't name on the Texans or just the Texans, really.
Yeah.
It's pretty. And then Leonard Fournette's also back there, and he's been called fat this year, but he's a player as well. So I would say, if we're just leading off talking about Tampa Bay, they're probably the favorites to win this division, right?
Definitely the favorites. I mean, who's going to give them a chance? Who's going to give them a run for their money?
Well, I will tell you right now who I think might give them a run for their money. And I actually am curious to hear your opinion on this, because I don't think it's going to be the same. I think that the New Orleans Saints could give Tampa Bay. They beat them twice last year. They beat them both times. They swept Tampa Bay last year.
Now, remind me, who was the quarterback in those games?
In those games, I don't know if Jameis played either of them, but Jameis Winston came out hot. And then I think Taysom Hill took over and someone else as well. I actually don't remember. I didn't watch a lot of New Orleans Saints games, but when Jameis Winston was playing, he was very good. Yeah. And so their defense beat Tampa. They had shut out Tampa. I think they beat them like 42-0 one game. So New Orleans is still a great defensive team. Now, their offensive aspect of the ball is not going to be as good because Sean Payton has retired. So there's a new coach who's Dennis Allen. I believe he was an assistant coach for the Saints. But Michael Thomas is back. Marquez Callaway was good last year. They drafted Chris Olave out of Ohio State. Jarvis Landry is now in New Orleans. They got Traquan Smith. So their wide receiving core is not that bad either.
No. And then they got another wide receiver in the running back.
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara. That's another guy that can pick up some short passes.
100%. But there is a little cloud. There's a little cloud hanging over New Orleans. Alvin Kamara allegedly assaulted somebody in Las Vegas last year during the Pro Bowl. Now, his courtroom date is coming up very quick. The NFL has not punished him at all because they're waiting to see what happens with the court date. We're seeing this with a couple players and one other very prominent player in the NFL, but we don't need to talk about him right now. So Alvin Kamara could face some type of penalty. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know anything about it. All I know is that he found himself in trouble. Mark Ingram's the backup, but let's say Alvin Kamara does get 5 or 6 games. Taking away that running offense is probably a big deal for Jameis Winston, right?
I think so. I mean, Jameis Winston, I think he puts in the work off the field. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. He's good. He'll make some big plays. He's just that consistency of, he'll turn some, he's got a lot of turnovers, no?
Well, he did. Right? He did when he was in Tampa Bay. His last year in Tampa Bay, he threw the most touchdowns, but he also threw the most interceptions. Yeah. Now, he did get laser eye surgery since then. So can you just chalk it up to that?
The only thing that boggles my mind is, was it just he had no idea his vision was that bad? Or is this one of those things they're just making a little more of it than it was, right?
Well, that's what it could be, because I'll defend either of those. A lot of the times you do try to find something that will take away from your negative aspects of your career or your life. So you'll blame it on something else, or you'll find a reason like, oh, he didn't have this, so that's probably why this happened, or he couldn't do that, this is why this happened. But at the same time, I haven't had my eyes checked in 10 years. So I could very well also be missing something that I'm not seeing. It's not an easy thing because it's a gradual slowdown, right? Like you're not something you're going to notice right away.
But here's my question. When they do these physicals for the teams, is that not something to check?
You think it would be, right? It must be.
I think it would be.
I think it would be too. I think that's a great point, actually, because why would you? Seems like the first thing you'd fucking check would be you'd go in, you'd say, all right, you're still this height. Your body fat is this. Let's see your eyesight. Let's check your ears. Like probably put a light pen in your eye. They make you do the letters test. It seems like easy stuff, right?
Yeah. Is Andy Dalton going to hit the field at all?
I was just about to ask you that same question. I don't think so. So the thing about Jameis Winston is he got hurt last year. I think Jameis Winston could win comeback player of the year this year if he does well, because he was hurt last year and he missed a lot of games and the team has potential to do well. Andy Dalton is a great backup for them to have. Now, What I don't like about Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, it's the same thing I don't like about like Lamar Jackson and his backup, or so like Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, is if you have a guy like Jameis Winston who can throw the ball super deep and has a strong arm, you want the same type of guy. Whereas I feel like Andy Dalton's more of a system guy, more of a system, like dump off here, dump off there. Because a lot of times you see guys who have, like, if you had Michael Vick backed up by like Joey Harrington, that happened. It doesn't make sense. Michael Vick runs all over the place and creates plays. Joey Harrington just needs to dump the ball off just to get 5 or 6 yards. So I prefer when a backup quarterback is the same type of player as the starting quarterback. And I just don't think Andy Dalton's that same type of guy.
No, I agree. I've never actually thought of it from that perspective. But how much is the onus on the quarterback? If he's coming into the game, or, he's starting the next game and, he's going to ride out a few games. How much is the onus on the quarterback to adjust his game to match whatever the rest of the team's doing? And how much is the onus on the rest of the team to just adjust for the quarterback? I understand that's probably a team-to-team difference. Everyone's going to have their own discussion in the locker room about whose responsibility that is. But I get what you're saying. If everybody's been, following a certain system, and now suddenly for one guy, we have to make some massive adjustments.
Yeah. And I'm not like, Jameis Winston's not running all over the place, but I think that he steps up in the pocket better. And I think he's got a stronger arm and likes to throw a deeper ball. Whereas Andy Dalton, I think, is more of a like read real quick, 3 seconds, ball out of his hand, 3 seconds out of his hand. So it's that the onus might not even be on the players or the quarterback. The onus could be on the offensive coordinator calling the plays.
But that Andy Dalton with that Michael Thomas combo, that's your guy for that quick 3-second throw.
Yeah, 100%.
That's your guy. Run that quick slant and just get that pass. That is your guy for that.
Yeah, because Michael Thomas.
I think it just might also, it might also just change who's going to get more production, right?
That's right. And with Chris Olave, the rookie, he's going to take away some of the pressure from Michael. Also, Michael Thomas has not played last year.
He did not play. And was it the season before that he was the top receiver in the league?
Yeah. He was like a top 5 receiver. Yeah. But he also got hurt towards the end of the season, which is why he didn't play last year. Correct.
Yeah.
So how do you know he's still that same guy?
You never know.
Especially if they went out they drafted Chris Olave and then they signed Jarvis Landry as well, who Jarvis Landry is a great wide receiver.
I like him.
Yeah. So the wide receiver depth on New Orleans is not that far off from the Tampa Bay wide receiver depth. It's just there's a main cog in that wheel is Jameis Winston as good as Tom Brady? The answer there is no. But can James Winston hold his own enough to not lose that game? He just has to not lose the game for them because Alvin Kamara is better than Leonard Fournette, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So whose defense is better?
Defense?
Who's got the better defense is probably New Orleans. Is probably what they won twice last year.
Yeah. What do you like tight ends? Now Taysom Hill, he's a full-time tight end now.
He's a full-time tight end now. I have never liked Taysom Hill. I think Tyson Hill was a gimmick forever, and I think he got figured out, and I think it's over for him, is what I personally think. But
as a quarterback,
I think just as a player, like the reason that he was good is it's if you have a guy on the field who could be taking a snap and throwing the ball or could play tight end, then the defense has to account for both. But if you have a guy that's like now strictly just a tight end, it's like, okay, he's just a tight end. He's not going to throw the ball 10 times a game. He might throw the ball once every 3 games, but that threat is gone. So you don't have to play them the same defensively. You can just play him as a tight end, no?
Right. Now, do you not think that with the coaching change, that might be devastating for him because he probably isn't going to get utilized the same way as Sean Payton?
I 100% agree. And I think Taysom Hill I think he's a nobody after this season. I think he's just another guy that had a moment that was not able to keep up with the progression of what defenses were doing against him, if that makes any sense at all. And I think that the Sean Payton loss is the biggest coaching loss of the offseason.
Oh, for sure.
Like, he's just unbelievable. Like, it's that whole offense is going to run completely different. Now, I keep in mind, I don't know anything about Dennis Allen, the new coach, but I know that he's not Sean Payton.
No. And I mean, I don't think another Hall of Fame level coach like that retired this past 2 years. No.
No, the only guy I can think of is actually the guy in Tampa Bay, Bruce Arians, who just won the Super Bowl with them. He took a step back. So he's still with the team, but he's not head coach of them. So they have Todd Bowles as their new head coach now. But I don't think that offensive system takes a hit as much as the New Orleans. I think Sean Payton was everything to the New Orleans Saints, whereas Bruce Arians was kind of the guy at the right time. And then he kind of, now the other guys are stepping up so he can take a reserve role and just kind of be in the front office.
And just since you mentioned Bruce Arians, little, tangent from that, Antonio Brown, done completely. Never see him step on the field in the NFL again.
Yeah, I don't see why anyone would sign Antonio Brown.
Neither do I. I mean, it just, for a guy who he quit mid-game, I don't see that happening. But I mean, he blamed it on Bruce Arians, did he not?
He blamed, yeah, he did. He said he was hurt, his ankle was hurt, and Bruce Arians and the coaching staff were telling him to go in, you got to go in. And he kept saying, no, I can't, I'm hurt. So they said, okay, well, they didn't believe him. So they went to the dressing room. Like, it was a little bit of a mix up, and I don't know who or what is to believe, but my whole thing is about that. Even if he is hurt, he wasn't hurt when he was sprinting off the field and like jumping around.
No,
but you quit on Tom Brady. The only reason that you are there is because Tom Brady said, go get Antonio Brown. I want Antonio Brown. You quit on the best player, the best guy in the Hall of Fame when he's done, the best player to ever play the game. You gave up on him. So
stuck his neck out for you.
Yeah. So if you give up on him, who's going to pick you up? You're going to go to like Tennessee, and Ryan Tannehill's going to be like, oh yeah, let's get Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's going to go, that's the quarterback. Get me out of here. He's not Tom Brady. It's just it was a whole weird thing, but I think Antonio Brown is done. Unless someone gets super, super desperate. I don't see it happening.
No, I agree. I think he sealed his own, nailed his own coffin with that move.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there's two other teams in this division. They both probably stink, but one of them's trying to do the right thing. One of them's trying to win. Carolina. So Carolina probably has a head coach in Matt Rule who shouldn't be their head coach anymore. The entire fan base is wanting him to leave. He's still in there. They've now have three. Somehow they've found themselves in a situation where they have three quarterbacks that the entire fan base could make an argument for. You have who was there? Sam Darnold, who started last year, who is a third overall pick, and he came from the Jets. Third overall pick, supposed to be good. Kind of gets the raw, the raw end of the stick wherever he goes. He hasn't had a chance to make himself a name yet. And then they go out and they draft Matt Corral out of Ole Miss, I believe, somewhere like that, where he's supposed to be a guy. He's supposed to be an up-and-coming quarterback with the talent level to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So, okay, so we got Sam Darnold to start. He'll teach Matt Corral for a bit. We'll see what Matt Corral has, might put him in. Then they go out and they get Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker Mayfield was in the same draft as Sam Darnold, but he went first overall. Who do you like as quarterback of this team for, let's say, 14 out of the 17 games?
I mean, I feel that it's known that Baker Mayfield started. No?
I would say so. No, the difference is
that's not guaranteed. Okay.
It's not guaranteed. Carolina is paying Baker Mayfield $9 million this year. They are paying Sam Darnold $18 million this year. Does that matter?
No.
I don't think so either.
I don't think it matters.
Because wins matter more, right? Yeah. You're going to pay these guys regardless, so wins matter.
It's a sunk cost either way. You're paying him whether he sits, you're paying him whether he plays. It's a sunk cost.
Exactly. So whoever gets you more wins is going to balance out both those. It's going to make you look better for Baker's $9 million. It'll make you look worse for Sam's if he's on the bench, but you're winning more games. So the cost evaluation works out in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I recall correctly, Sam Darnold, he had decent stats to start the season, and then he just kind of fell off.
Yeah, I think they won the first three. I think they won their first three games, and then they failed.
Not even just wins. I mean, just like completions and all those like QB ratings, all those little stats. I think.
Yeah, he's not a bad quarterback. Like statistically, you could find flaws in his number, and in the video, you can find flaws in his game, but he hasn't like the same with Baker. Like, well, I don't know why people are shitting all over Baker all the time. He took the Cleveland Browns in the playoffs and he beat the Steelers. Like,
I've always thought this about Baker. He's not a bad. If you have you got 32 teams in the NFL.
Yep.
He's not the 32nd worst quarterback.
No, he's probably a top 20 quarterback.
That's what I mean. I just don't think he's not the guy that's going to pull a win out of his hat. He's a good game maintainer. He's not going to lose you the game. He's not going to win you the game. He's just that kind of middle ground quarterback.
Yeah, he's a guy that's not. I agree with that. He's not gonna win you 10 games, but he's also not gonna lose you 5.
Yeah.
But so
for that, I think they start him.
I think he wins. I think this is a genuine quarterback competition going into training camp between all three of them. And I think Matt Carroll has probably Baker and Sam are 1A, 1B. And I think Matt Carroll is probably the third guy on that list. But I think Baker does win. He's a better quarterback. And he has proven ability to win in the playoffs, to take a team into the playoffs, where Sam Darnold does not have that. Now, and it's not like Baker Mayfield played for the Patriots, so that's why they went to playoffs. No, Darnold played for the Jets. Baker played for Cleveland, 2 terrible franchises over the last 20 years. And Baker was able to take one of those to the playoffs. Sam Darnold was not able to do that. Both of them in the same amount of time in the NFL.
Having said that, the talent level on Cleveland at that time was far superior than the Jets.
Yes, I will agree with that completely. And the funny thing is that Carolina brought over one of those Jets in Robbie Anderson as their wide receiver, who played with Darnold. Yeah. So they haven't really upgraded. They got DJ Moore, who was pretty good, but then the next up is Robbie Anderson.
Now, did you hear on the quarterbacks?
What's that?
Just since we're on the quarterbacks, a little fun fact. I don't know if he's still with the team, but they have a gentleman by the name of PJ Walker.
Yeah, now, he's still there.
If I remember correctly, he's a leftover man from the XFL. Is he not?
He might be one of the few, yes.
I think he was the only guy that actually got a contract with the NFL and stuck around after the XFL.
For this long. The guy he hate me, Rod Smart, I think.
This installment of the XFL, not the original one. There was the second iteration.
Is that already passed and gone? Are we about to have our third iteration of the XFL?
We're about to have the third XFL.
Jesus.
Never done more than a season.
No, how could you? It's terrible.
I feel bad for the last one, because the last one was actually doing decently. It was that COVID hit, and it just ended the season mid-season. They had no choice but to shut down. They just couldn't keep going.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's still. We'll see how it goes. The Rock's in charge of it now, so it's going to succeed.
Yeah, but I mean, so they did some stuff. They became an NFL affiliate in some way, so I think they're kind of making some moves. Yeah, moves like legitimize the league. But anyway,
yeah. I don't think PJ Walker makes the team. I don't think PJ Walker makes the team, that being said, because of these other 3
unlikely. Guys. Yeah. Unlikely. Now, the biggest question, the potential star player.
Yep.
Can he play a full season?
Well, so I was looking into this when I was preparing for this conversation. Christian McCaffrey is obviously who we're talking about. So he's been hurt the last 2 seasons, has not played. He had an ACL tear, I believe it was the first season. And then last year it was just hamstring and ankle, not serious stuff, but enough to keep him out. The first 3 seasons of it, this is his 6th season coming up. So the last 2 seasons he's been hurt. The first 3 seasons, he never missed a game. Not one.
I think in college, he missed 1 game as well.
In college, he only missed 1 game. Out of 3 years, he only missed 1 game. And then he came to the NFL and played 3 straight seasons, not missing a game. And now he's starting to get hurt. So coming into today, said this guy's always going to be hurt. Not going to touch him on my fantasy teams. I would not touch him. I would not expect him to play at a high level for more than 10 games if I was on the Carolina Panthers. But then I read those statistics and I was like, oh, maybe these are just flukes. But the more I think about it as well, is this just might be the fact that because he played every game in college and because he played every game in the first 3 years of the NFL, maybe now is just that time his body is breaking down.
It also could be he was a workhorse by the definition of workhorse.
Yeah.
Like there was a couple seasons there where every Carolina Panthers highlight reel, and he had a highlight every game, was just him. He was carrying the team. Absolutely. There was nobody else doing anything. And absolutely. Just, you use him on every down. Eventually, you're just going to break a guy.
100%. And we talked about this last last episode with the Tennessee
Henry.
with Derrick Henry. Like it's eventually is going to break down. It's just when will it break down? And also in the NFL, when it does breaks down very quickly.
Yeah. Now, who's their running back number 2? Is it Foreman?
So it'll be between Chuba Hubbard, who was the number 2 last year, and Dante Foreman, who was with Tennessee last year that covered it for Derrick Henry. So they got like Chuba Hubbard wasn't bad in fill-in spots. He was actually like a decent running back that was able to hold the for whatever analogy we want to use. He was able to hold down the fort for when Christian McCaffrey was gone, but he's not an all-star. Like he's not an all-pro player. He's good. He's decent. He can pick up his blocks. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, but he's not. Christian McCaffrey is probably one of the top 5 running backs talent-wise without being injured in the NFL.
I have faith because I think he's a good guy. I think he takes his training seriously. I don't think he's just, happy to be an NFL superstar and, he's like, whatever, it's going downhill. He comes from a football family and, he seemed like he worked hard his whole life. Yep. And I think he wants a little more out of his career. Yeah. I think he's got the drive and I think he's going to put in the work and try and keep himself healthy. It's just somebody else needs to be doing well, one of the other running backs, to take the workload away from him, right?
Yes, there's needs to be somebody that does not require Christian McCaffrey to run the ball 35 times a game. If he can run the ball 20 times a game and Chuba or Foreman can run the other 10 to 15 times, that's going to be beneficial for everybody in the long run. And
especially like for the short, just gaining the short yards, just when you're just going to be smashing in. Yeah, you don't want to use them on every. No, you need somebody else to take some of that abuse.
I agree. And so this a little thing that I always found interesting about Carolina before we get off Carolina, Robbie Anderson, the guy with the wide receiver we were talking about earlier, who played with Sam Darnold for the New York Jets. So when these rumors were going around about Baker Mayfield getting traded to the Panthers from Cleveland, something came up on Instagram saying the Panthers are rumored to trade for Baker Mayfield. Robbie Anderson made a comment on that saying, no, NOOOO, all caps. Now he has to play with Baker in that dressing room. Do you think that affects anything?
You know what? I think it kind of puts the onus on one of them to, step it up and show that, prove the other guy wrong. But, the guys talk trash all the time. I'm sure, players have talked trash just, to the depths when they're against each other and they find themselves on the same team. They just got to find a way to figure it out.
But would you make that?
They can overcome it.
Do you make that comment? Do you make that? Sure. But do you make that comment knowing that rumors like that don't just come out of nowhere? There's actually usually where there's smoke, there's fire. So if you're Robbie Anderson, what do you think made him make that comment?
I think he just didn't think before he made the comment. He just went off pure emotion, not thinking well, I'm going to have to work with this person now,
Sure. Now,
I don't want to get into another division, but it was when Tyreek Hill was making comments about his new quarterback, Tua, being better than Mahomes. And again, a lot of it's just to do with you can't bring down the guy that's your quarterback now in the room, right?
Okay, so
that's why I think Robbie Anderson made a mistake. Just keep your opinions to yourself there. You don't want to cause a rift between you and your quarterback because it also might even just be if he's a little bit selfish, he's not going to throw to you.
Exactly. So maybe do you think that Robbie Anderson was defending Sam Darnold as his quarterback in those rumors? And he was going, no, let me go publicly defend my guy who I played with in New York because him and I have chemistry together.
It could be, but it just for the, outside of being in that inner circle, it doesn't come off that way because, it didn't, he didn't mention anything about Darnold. And also if you have faith in your guy, you got faith in your guy. It doesn't matter who they bring in. You back up your boy.
I agree with that. There's no reason to do it publicly like that, especially because Robbie Anderson is not a good wide receiver.
His hands are always been a little bit questionable, in my opinion. He's speed,
super fast, but speed doesn't mean anything if you can't stop. We've all seen Mighty Ducks. Speed doesn't mean anything if you can't stop. Robbie Anderson can run down the field as fast as he wants, but if you can't catch the ball, what does it matter? I always hate when guys who have subpar talent compared to the rest of their peers are the ones that are the most outlandish with what they say and why they say it. It's one thing for Terrell Owens to make all the comments he made about his quarterbacks and his teams. Kind of, he is known as one of the ultimate wide receiver divas, but he's in the Hall of Fame. Robbie Anderson has nowhere. He is not going to the Hall of Fame. He's not going to the average of fame.
He's going to have one or two big games a season, and that's it.
Yeah, and those will come off two deep balls that he just sprints to get. So I just don't know what guys like that make. Like, you're subpar, but you're a below average player. Why are you making this comment?
I mean, it's a common human thing for a lot of the population. They don't think of the long-term effects of what they do. They just think the short term.
Yeah, that's
and at the end of the day, for him, if you have a better quarterback, this can be better for you. You can have better production with a better quarterback.
I agree.
Now,
I agree. And Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback, right?
And Baker Mayfield's got a lot better long bomb than Sam Darnold. Am I wrong?
I don't know, because you could actually. I don't know. It's funny you say that, because if you look at the video that Odell Beckham Sr. put out, he's throwing a lot of short balls to Odell Beckham wide open. But that's an interesting point. Like, maybe Sam Darnold has a better long ball. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest.
Baker's got the arm. I mean, if you're just measuring the distance, who's got the power? Baker's got a longer arm, better arm, no?
I think so, yes. And also, you can't go off last year. If anyone throws any videos out from last year, he had a broken collarbone. The entire part of his body from his, let's say, his chest up is not moving properly because of a broken shoulder, broken collarbone. So you can't expect a guy to throw that extra 15 yards if none of that stuff is coinciding with the rest of it.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but I feel like, just being an old guy, I can kind of figure that out.
For sure. It's just the mechanics.
That's right. It's just the mechanics. So it's a shame we even have to talk about this team. But I don't hate the Atlanta Falcons as a team overall in history times. Like, I was a huge fan of Michael Vick, for a long time. And they actually have very cool uniforms.
Didn't they have Brett Favre?
I hate Brett Favre, but he got traded from there. Let's not.
Didn't they also have Deion?
Yeah, they had Deion Sanders.
They
absolutely,
had some good players in history.
They absolutely did. So, Warwick Dunn, another one, loved him. I think he was later in his career, I believe. Anyways, I might have made myself look like an idiot there.
He was there with Vic, no?
He might have been. There's another guy that had, but either way, it would be more fun to talk about the history of the Atlanta Falcons, because this new team that they have stinks.
Can I bring up one little point just before I get that? Because I want to say the same things. Like, their team is terrible. Now, I read kind of an interesting stat, and again, this is poor management, but they have the most dead salary on their team than any other team in the league right now. And that's going to make it impossible for them to rebuild for a little bit. So as much as they probably want to get better, they're not getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, they'll have a tough time getting free agents with that, right?
Yeah.
They're going through the draft. Like, they just drafted Drake London, wide receiver, supposed to be very good. But they have, Calvin Ridley's been suspended this year because he gambled $1,500 on the NFL, which don't get me started on that. I think that is so dumb. Not on his part, but on the NFL the guy wasn't playing. So he got family members place 3 $500 bets. I don't think that's worth a year's suspension.
I mean, we could get into the whole Pete Rose thing too.
Yeah, we could. Pete Rose. Hey, I'm Pete Rose pro Hall of Fame. Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, if you ask me. But that's a baseball talk.
I get it. Yeah.
So looking at the offense for the Atlanta Falcons, because we've been heavy offense in this podcast episode. They re-signed Cordell Patterson, who has found his stride, his position, what he does best with the Atlanta Falcons. Running back, wide receiver, very much like Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. Cordell Patterson's kind of the OG when it comes to that. Now,
is he also returning kicks?
I don't think he's doing that anymore, but that's where he started. That's where he got his career start with Minnesota. Yeah. He was drafted as a high-level wide receiver, stunk, returned kicks. Then Atlanta kind of put him in the running back position, and now they're like, oh, you can actually pat or catch out of the wings. So he's kind of all over the place. Who's throwing them the ball, though, is the question.
Is it Mariota to start? Is that kind of the consensus?
I think today is July 28th. And I think today they came out and said Marcus Mariota is going to be the starting quarterback for the rest of the offseason training camp and going into week 1 of the NFL or preseason and then into week 1 of the NFL season. Now that could change at any moment. Desmond Ridder is, I think, a 3rd round quarterback. I think he was 3rd round. Yeah, he was probably 4th or 5th taken. He's okay. I mean, no one coming out of college thought that he was going to be amazing, but he's a guy that has one of those potential to be great elements. Marcus Mariota has never played a full season of NFL in his career. He gets hurt every single year. So why would he not get hurt this year?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like within the division, is there one aspect of football that Atlanta is not the worst in the division? Defense, offense, special teams, pass rushing, offensive line, defensive line, whatever you name it. Like, what?
I will name it. Younghoe Koo, their kicker.
I like your kicker.
He might be the best in the division.
Yeah. They do have a good kicker. I like him. Now, they do have the one name of Kyle Pitts, who people are saying is a very good talent.
Yes.
But again, I mean, like, I've never seen a tight end take over a game like that with nobody else that's,
right. Every tight end that's been very good has a wide receiver or a running back or a quarterback that's equally as good.
Yeah.
So that is kind of Kyle Pitts' downfall now, is that who's throwing in the ball? Why are they not? Every team's going to double team Kyle Pitts, right? Why would you not? You'd have a nickel back on him plus a linebacker that'll sting him at the line, and then he'll be covered at 5-7 yards off the line. I feel like he's just going to be shadowed the entire game. We don't know what Drake London's going to do. And then you have Marcus Mariota throwing in the ball. Like, it's so many wild cards, and you can't give Cordell Patterson 50 running plays or 50 passes out of the back. Like, he's going to get beat up.
Is he the number 1 running back?
Yeah, he's their guy. He's the number 1 person on offense. This whole offense runs through Cordell Patterson.
Yeah.
It's just a bad way. It's a bad way to go. Like, I don't know why they spent so much money getting him. I know why, is because he's a great player, and he fits their system so well. But if you're in a rebuild mode, what's the point of holding on to a guy like this? It doesn't make sense unless you're trying to trade him for assets.
I mean, yeah, I'm just looking through this list, and there's just not a lot of names here.
No, it's a bad football team.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hope.
No.
I can say, like, this might be the worst team in the NFL this year.
Well, we talked about the Texans recently. Do you think they're worse than the Texans?
That's a tough one. I
think the Jaguars are better than the Falcons.
As time goes on, I got more and more faith in the Jaguars.
Oh yeah. By the beginning of the season on this podcast, we're going to be full Jaguar fans.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, you don't have anything in your quarterback room.
No, you don't.
I was saying about Baker Mayfield, the 32nd worst quarterback in the league. I might put maybe Marcus Mariota. I have to go through the list, but Marcus Mariota might be number 33.
In the quarterback in the NFC South?
In the league. I'm saying, like, you got 32 teams.
Oh,
he might be the 33rd worst quarterback in the league. I'd have to go through. I can't say that as a fact, but
no, it's a bold statement, but it might not be a wrong statement.
Yeah.
Because you got to think Denver's quarterbacks suck, which we'll get to in a future.
Would you rather Sam Darnold or Baker over Marcus Mariota?
I would take Sam Darnold or Baker. Both. I would take them both over Marcus Mariota.
Right. Jameis Winston or Dalton or Mariota?
Oh, I think Jameis Winston is going to be a very good quarterback this year. I think that if the New Orleans Saints win the division, I think Jameis Winston wins the MVP.
My point is that a lot of teams in their division have 2 quarterbacks better than their starting quarterback over in Atlanta.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that statement. There's a lot of teams that have two very good quarterbacks that I would rather have over Atlanta's quarterback.
Now, I mean, I don't think this has ever come up. Who's the backup in Tampa Bay right now?
That's a good question. I have no idea. I got it up right here. The backup in Tampa Bay. They drafted a guy, forget his name. Okay, Blaine Gabbert is the backup in which he's not good. And then Kyle Trask is the guy.
He hasn't played major, has he?
He hasn't played in a long time. And then Kyle Trask is the guy they drafted in the second round 2 years ago. When they first got Tom Brady, they went out and drafted a guy. His name is Kyle Trask. And if they had any belief that Kyle Trask was going to be good, they would not have gone out and got Blaine Gabbert.
And that's saying a lot because, I mean, I can't remember Blaine Gabbert ever starting since Jaguars days.
Yeah, I think he probably started with San Francisco before they got Trey Lance. Before they went out and drafted Trey Lance, it was probably Garoppolo and Blaine Gabbert, I think, was the last time he probably played, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure. But we only got a few minutes left here on our 45-minute timer. Let's quickly go over the win-losses. So Atlanta, the projected total wins 5, over or under?
Under.
I agree with that statement. Carolina Panthers, 6.5, over or under?
I like that. I'm going to go under because I think 6 wins.
I think it's 6 wins as well. So we got 2 under. So less than 5 for the Falcons, less than 6.5. We both think 6 for the Carolina Panthers. New Orleans Saints, 8 wins total projection, over or under?
I'm going over.
I'm going over too.
I was thinking maybe 10.
I was thinking 10 as well. I think they go over, and I think it's a great bet, actually. I might go out and place a bet on that now. And then Tampa Bay Buccaneers win total production 11.5. So last year they won 10. The year before that they won 12, I think. Or no, last year they won 12. The year before that they won 10.
11.5. I think 11 maybe. But you know what?
It's tough. It's just 17 games.
It is tough because, I mean, eventually Tom Brady has to decline.
Well, you'd think so, but he was second overall in MVP last year.
I get that. I'm not saying it has to be this year. I think he's also a smart enough guy to walk away before he's completely just, terrible and nobody wants him.
All right. Well,
he wants to walk away with a low grace.
Well, let's do this real quick. Okay. In this program, we will have, when we get into the season, we're going to have timeouts. Each of us will get 3 timeouts. Our timer is up right now at 45 minutes. I'm going to use a timeout. I'm going to go through the regular season opponents for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You tell me win or loss for each one, and we will see how many it adds up to. How's that sound? All right. So first week, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Win or loss? Win. We got the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans.
Loss.
Okay. We have Green Bay at home in Tampa Bay.
Loss.
Really? Then we have Kansas City at home in Tampa Bay.
I also want to say loss.
Okay. I won't agree with you on some of these, but this is for you. Atlanta in Tampa Bay.
Win.
Okay. We got Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh.
Win.
We have Carolina in Carolina.
The win. It's a win.
Baltimore at home.
Going to overtime, but they're going to win.
Going into overtime, but they're going to win. Okay. Then we have the Rams.
Oh, that's a tough one.
In Tampa Bay.
I think they lose.
Okay. Seattle in Tampa Bay.
Win.
Then it's a bye week, and then there's Cleveland in Cleveland.
Win.
New Orleans in Tampa Bay.
That's the win.
San Francisco in San Francisco.
They win.
Cincinnati in Tampa.
I think they can win.
Arizona in Arizona.
Win.
Carolina at home.
Win. I'm starting to think one of these last ones I said win might be a loss. But win.
That's all right. You made these are by your gut decision. So the last game is Atlanta in Atlanta.
Win.
So that's 12 wins.
Yeah, so I think one more loss. Put them at 11.
But that's the over-under is 11.5. So your gut instinct said that it's over, and now you're trying to go back and go under? You can't do that. That's gambling, baby.
No, but I called it before we got to the end. I called it one of those wins should be a loss. Like maybe
there's probably going to be 2 or 3 of those wins that are going to be losses, but those 2 or 3 are going to turn out to be wins as well.
Yeah. I think 11 wins. I put them at 11 wins.
I put them at 12. I'm going to go with you, actually, because some of yours I disagreed with, but I think the ones you got wrong, you eventually ended up getting the other ones wrong. So it switches out. It works out itself. But no, I actually kind of like that game. We should do that more often. But
to be fair, we haven't reviewed a lot of these other divisions, so it was kind of tough to go through in my head with my gut.
Well, that's why it's your gut. You're not supposed to review things. It's your gut. You just go with what it is. Yeah. Well, folks, thank you for listening to us, whether you're going to work or you're just at home or you're cleaning, you're doing chores, or you're sitting on your patio, have a beer. We thank you for being with us. Poya, anything else to say to the fans?
No, thank you so much. And it was great to be here tonight.
We will see everyone we will talk to everybody. You won't talk to us, but we will reach out to all of you on the next Running Down the Clock podcast. Thank you so much. I'm Tyler Walzak. Have a great day. Running Down the Clock is brought to you by the Ordinary Podcast Network and is every Thursday running until the week after the Super Bowl. We hope you enjoyed enough to subscribe and tune in again next week.